What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. So you've managed the improbable feat of getting yourself the rated up hero on a rate up event, or are even still trying today, and you want to now know how do you make best use of Nerissa, how do you build her, where do you use her, where lie her strengths, and what kind of pieces of content should you keep in mind. So that's what we're here for today. And the game now is going to be simple. We're going to briefly go over the skills, just so we're all on the same page, talk a bit about specifics, then go into how to build her, specifics on builds, when you have to change certain substats, what you're mainly looking for, and then lastly, in which pieces of content should you consider putting her in, reasons why, and also where she's going to shine. Right, so let's start off with Abyssal Favor, and instead of the when taking damage you recover HP and it grants her black pearls, the bottom part effect, let's talk about the inspiration, and let's actually put it in numbers. So without looking at the build specifically, your Nerissa is going to have, if you build her perfectly in that direction, she's going to have almost close to 22,000 attack, which means we're going to take 21,276 times 0.2. So you're giving 4,255 attack to the highest attack ally in range through the use of Abyssal Favor. This is without considering Lord bonuses, which are going to increase her stats even further, and without considering the Wings of Grace effect on her gear. So this number at the end of the day does turn out to be even higher. So 4,255, and now let's have a look at Diao. Diao, permanent inspiration, she has permanent inspiration. So for Diao, we're going to have a look at only 11,900 attack, so 11,906, but this time times 0.25, because it's a 25% instead of a 20% inspiration. What you can see is that you have a difference of basically plus 50%. Instead of 4,500, you're looking at 3,000. So 50% higher permanent inspiration. Now, the great part about this is it should show you how strong of an inspiration buff this is, but also it's the fact that if you run her and a Diao together, these buffs don't clash. The way this works is she's going to be providing the inspiration to all allies in range, and what it does say is, while this effect is active, other buffs affecting the inspiration will not take effect. Additionally, cast is immune to such buffs, but obviously the strongest inspiration counts. So inspiration from Nerissa is going to go onto your highest attack unit, and then the inspiration from Diao is basically going to go to everybody else, meaning your highest attack unit on the field is going to get an even stronger inspiration. Yes, you cannot quite compare them because Diao does also provide the penetration increase, overall making their inspiration value to a single unit similar enough. But then again, it does not interfere with the penetration increase. So overall, if you run her and a Diao together, all of a sudden, all your units still get the penetration, all your units get the inspiration, but one unit is just going to get even more inspiration just from Nerissa being on the field. Yeah, that's Abyssal Favor. And then another important part is there's so much text in her ultimate, but what it does is it dispels. Her ultimate dispels, so for example, already instantly obvious using this one in Guild Boss 2 alongside of an Eloin, where you can then ult with Eloin, ult with her, ult with Eloin, ult with her, making ults, making auto runs silky smooth, and overall making it way easier to deal with the poison shenanigans. So yeah. Then the next important part about her kit is you have the ability to turn her into a damage dealer against magic, weakened to magic units, or overall just a damage dealer that does magic damage. The way this works, now all of a sudden her basic attacks deal 15% damage 30 times to the enemy, so 450%, and 60% increased damage to enemies with shields. A slight drawback on this is the fact that Nerissa's attack speed isn't quite as high, so you'll see she only attacks around every 1.5 seconds, which isn't all that fast, but honestly for what she does and how much she already provides, it is pretty much fast enough if you build her properly for speed. Last part is these black pearls. These black pearls simply explain. She gets them from multiple sources, and every 4 black pearls stack into an atrophy. A atrophy is this eye orb you're going to see above her once you use her in content, and this eye orb signifies obviously a atrophy stack, and then once you stack 4 atrophy stacks, the bar is going to pretty much reset, and then the orb color is going to change, and that signifies stack 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it's going to do that again with a slightly different, more glowy version that then signifies stacks 9, 10, 11, and 12. Overall, every 4 points of atrophy, so at 4 points, at 8 points, and at 12 points, you get either a 10, 20, or 30% attack increase and a 8, 16, or 24% damage reduction. Furthermore, once you reach these first 4 atrophy stacks, you now also apply increased healing received by 20%, with then the Siren Song providing the 20% damage reduction, as well as these additional effects right here and the healing every 5 seconds. Important to note, you cannot trigger her ultimate until you have 4 stacks of atrophy or you've generated 16 black pearls. So keep that in mind, you can only use her ultimate once you do that. And if you do use her ultimate, every stack of atrophy is going to increase the duration, so the maximum duration is 24 seconds, and once you do use the inspiration, you lose all the atrophy stacks, you go back to 0, and you still have to build up the atrophy to go back to the increased healing received. Okay, so that was quite a lot, but I think we quite usefully broke down her pretty complex kit, which now leads us to the builds. So there's 2 build types, that is the pure inspiration and support focus, and then there is the raw damage, or better said, this is a hybrid between damage, healing, and also inspiration support capabilities. Now, overall, you can see it as pretty much, if you build her without any damage capabilities, expect between like 2 to 2.5 million damage against the shield every single time the magic shield comes around. So for the first one, you'll do like 25% of it, so from 10 million down to 7.5, and then for the next one, you'll go down from 20 million down to like 17.5 million, so you do like a bit more than 10% damage on the shield. Now, if you build her in a damage set, important to note on a damage set, Sorban Arcana and Infernal Raw both work, because as you've seen in her ultimate description, it talks about basic attacks, so this basic attack damage bonus does also apply to her attacks in her ultimate, so both sets are fine to use. Overall, with a set like this, you can expect more like 4 to 6 million damage to help you with the shield. So here the important part is, if you're still struggling with the magic shields, if there's still a couple million missing, then building Nerissa in a damage set might be the way to go for you. But if you are able to solidly deal with those, going with more of a support set obviously allows her to allow her to heal more, but also to support your team a bit more, be it with the Wings of Grace buff that goes on a unit, be it with the Wings of Grace buff that goes onto herself, the higher inspiration, and also obviously the higher healing. Now let's talk about substats, main stats, and everything else stats. Because she does so much, there's quite a lot of stats that you want on her, and this one is, it depends on if you can afford it, right? But the dream best case scenario would be you running her in attack percent main with attack flat, giving you the highest base for the inspiration increase, then also the attack speed increase so that she gets out more heals, but also attacks more frequently during her ultimate against the shield, then healing effect for more healing and HP, so she has a more tanky base, so that she just doesn't die off once you get past a certain point and in Abyss 1. And that's also the main concern you really have to look at. Does your Nerissa even survive? If your Nerissa dies, this whole thing is kind of pointless, and then you either need more HP percent, more HP flat as substats, or even a HP percent main stat instead of attack percent stat. So you're sacrificing that extra bit of inspiration, that extra bit of shield damage for making her more tanky, for allowing her to heal more overall. Here, again, same scenario with a HP or a HP flat subset, some defense. And then on the left side, obviously the best one is then again going to be the attack percent one, because it again helps with the inspiration. Substat wise, attack speed attack threat not as important. Obviously here could be something else, specifically more like an HP percent substat, so she gets more tanky. Some attack again for the inspiration. Here also attack speed, healing effect. You can see overall we hit the magic threshold of 100 healing effect, which is just kind of the point where healing effect kind of starts not being as efficient as before. Attack speed we have quite a lot, and then obviously we have 300% extra attack. Now on the other hand here, this is also again pretty much a similar build. Overall rage regen really isn't all that important of a stat on her, because you're going to use her ult very sparingly, pretty much every time the magic shield rolls around for Abyss, and outside of that her ultimate truly isn't all that necessary to make her a great hero. So rage regen won't really be a factor. Just what you really need to see is how much attack can you get away with while still keeping her healthy, while keeping her alive, and you might even want to go more towards healing effect if you need it. Artifact wise, Tyre's Bomb is overall the best because you do increase your healing multiplier once your heroes get low, which happens quite frequently in Abyss in higher rotations of Guild Boss 2. So Tyre's Bomb quite helpful. Keeping your units alive is pretty much the best you always want to do. And then you could go for the extra 5% attack increase if you want to focus on the inspiration, but it's truly not necessary, or even more of like the buffing role with the Euphoric Orb. But that's pretty much it when it comes to Nerissa's building. So really see how much abuse can your Nerissa take, and if you truly can make the most out of her support and damage capabilities. So once again here the two builds. And yeah, that is pretty much all about Nerissa and how you can make the best use of her. Now, where are you going to make use of her? Something that isn't exactly obvious, but she's going to be an incredible helpful unit in Abyss. Not in Abyss, in campaign. For example, you can place a single unit down, place her, give her the incredible high inspiration, make sure that unit stays alive. You have the AoE damage reduction, so whatever the units throw at you, you're going to be able to live through it. You have the debuff dispel even for this, for example, Frost stage right here. Same is true for Chapter 9 Hard and Chapter 9 Expert. You again have a perfect unit. You also have the extra magic damage should you need it for whatever reason. You can again limit the damage this unit does by, for example, the AoE explosion. You can also make sure that you bring units, like for example here with no hero kit, and then with Expert again it would be just it's overall a great unit to bring, and it does a whole lot. Specifically once you get limited to 6 units, having her is quite useful. On another note also that isn't quite showable has to be the gem update. Whenever that comes later down the line, there's a map, or one map called Black Sewer, and the particular thing is that there's only 3 platform tiles, which means you want to bring units that do a whole lot at the same time, opening up more spots. So a unit that dispels, a unit that heals incredibly well, a unit that reduces AoE damage reduction, a unit that provides inspiration. It is going to be quite obvious she will have a lot of success there. Now, something that's going to be super obvious once the next Wasteland Titan rolls around, every top team score is going to include her. That's pretty much certain at this point. She's going to be incredibly great there. Also, the Lord of Sticks is going to be really fun because keep in mind she does 30 hits every basic attack during her ultimate. So this might also again destroy him quite successfully for the shield, while also providing the heals and some inspiration. But maybe she doesn't provide like enough rage or inspiration overall to be worthwhile for the codex. That remains to be seen. Artifact material rate, I guess the bigger issue with her is no rage regen. Like in Artifact material rate 21, 22, it's really important that you get the extra rage, that your units use more ultimates, that overall you get more value out of your healer. So something like an Eloin, something like a Hollow is more useful. Faction Trials, it is a no-brainer. She's going to be really useful. She's going to allow you to deal more damage. She's going to reduce the damage you take. Try Esotericists, but keep in mind you do not need her specifically for that. But if you haven't yet beaten it, she's going to make it easier. Gear rate 2, incredibly obvious, just replace her with the way normally Thirsty is used. She's going to work incredibly well with Sadie, with Aelin, reduce your damage taken, also have the role of the inspiration for whoever you're using as one of your main DPSs to deal with stages 22 and above, or even 21 and below. So gear rate 2, incredibly obvious. Gear rate 3, it depends. You could argue you can use her on the left side. So right here, if you need some healing for whatever AoE damage dealer you're using on the left side, not as important, honestly. And then gear rate 1. Gear rate 1 also, I don't really see her find much use, and that's just because of the fact that the team you really want to bring is quite limited, and she just doesn't bring the rage regen, right? If she had rage regen in her kit, I mean, this wouldn't even be a discussion anymore. But yeah, you'd rather bring something like an Elowen instead. Gear Dungeons, also kind of the same thing with AMR. Gear Dungeon 1, one thing you can try if you feel like doing so is bringing her and also a Volcra at the top. So she's going to be the inspiration unit for Volcra. Here you can see the inspiration once again. She can be the inspiration hero for Volcra, which means the top lane is all of a sudden done. You can deal with the top lane with just 2 units, meaning you have a grand total of 6 units to do something for the bottom lane. Like, for example, you could bring 1, 2 tanks, then 1, 2 units here. Overall, you could pretty much fill out the whole space right there. Like, for example, a damage dealer, a Constance for inspiration, double tank, a anti-heal unit, and a hollow Elowen to seal the deal. So this can work, though overall you don't need her in gear rate 1. And gear rate 2, or gear dungeon 2, I am sorry. Gear dungeon 2 then again also has a similar thing where once again you want the rage regen from an Elowen, you want the rage regen from a hollow that are already there, because you do need the rage regen on the field. So that your S-shit comes up, that every other ult comes up. So there isn't really too much of a place for her here, but you might still be able to find a use for her. It's just not going to be anything super obvious or anything super overpowered. Outside of that, now the 2 main uses for the moment, besides future content, have to be Titanic Ruins. We already talked about it. Guild Boss 2, just pick her, just pick an Elowen. Easy AoE damage reduction, incredible heals, the higher inspiration for your highest inspiration unit, and then you just cycle. 1 poison, Elowen. Next poison, Nerissa. 1 poison, Elowen. Next poison, Nerissa. Pretty much, she, or to an extent, she's also your get out of jail free card. Keep in mind, you do have to build up the 4 atrophy stacks, so keep that in mind. Overall, it's just going to make your auto smoother. It's going to help you breeze through a POC 1. Same is then true for Abyss 1. Abyss 1, you can put her into pretty much any team. The most optimal outcome would be dealing with the magic side of things with just 3 heroes. 2 main DPSs for magic and just the Nerissa, which would allow you to, for example, let's just pick a random example, bring a... do we have a Tordo as a tank? Let me see. Yeah, bring a Tordo as a tank, bring Kigiri, bring Wukong, and also another damage dealer in, for example, Twyla, right? It would allow you to bring another damage dealer. Then you also still have a space to obviously bring Aelin to support for healing. And then you would even be able to bring another physical damage dealer, like for example Lucius, so you can really take on that 60 million shield. So that would be the most optimal, but it's obviously hard to achieve. So you might just end up with something like having to bring an additional magic damage dealer, which is quite likely. So for example, where is he? For example, Vaughn, or even Twyla has to go, Ingrid comes in, and then all of a sudden you have a team like this, which is pretty much more of like a standard team. So yeah, that is Abyss 1 for you. It is pretty much same shenanigans. When you're going to use her ultimate for Abyss 1 is pretty much just on the shield. Everything outside of that is nothing crazy. Though there is still one last tip I can give you for Abyss 1, and that is try specifically if you're stuck on a damage threshold, if the shield is too strong but you're really close to that next chest, taking out an alien and putting in an Eloin is going to allow you to run more ultimates before you get to that last shield, allowing you to get over the damage hurdle, so you'll be able to get the next chest without having to break the shield in front of you, overall giving you more value. So if you're stuck on a shield but really close or decently close to the next chest and you still can't break the shield, putting in an Eloin instead of an alien is going to allow you to cycle more ultimates, allowing you to get more blood, giving you a higher chest. So yeah, that's everything I want to or can give you on the way when it comes to Nerissa. And as always, we see each other in the next one. Peace!